Though we all have guilty pleasures, our day-to-day decisions are usually governed by a deep-seated sense that we'd be better off in the long run if we favored work over leisure, necessities over luxuries, and saving money over impulsively spending it. But would we be happier? Counterintuitively, foregoing indulgences today can feed strong regrets later, and near-term regrets about self-indulgence dramatically fade with time. These responses are so strong marketeers are able to influence people's buying behavior simply by asking them to anticipate their long-term regrets. An example is the regret felt by college students over their conduct on recent winter breaks and by alumni remembering winter breaks of 40 years ago. Regret about not having spent or traveled more during breaks increased with time, whereas regret about not having worked, studied, or saved money during breaks decreased with time. There was a similar pattern in how business people perceived past choices between work and pleasure. Over time, those who had indulged felt less and less guilty about their choices, whereas those who had been dutiful experienced a growing sense of having missed out on the pleasures of life. People who unduly resist self-indulgence suffer from an excessive farsightedness, or hyperopia, the reverse of typical self-control problems. Rather than yielding to temptation, they focus on acquiring necessities and acting responsibly, and they see indulgence as wasteful, irresponsible, and even immoral. As a result, these consumers avoid precisely the products and experiences that they most enjoy. Their hyperopia can inhibit consumption in ways that are bad both for their own well-being and for marketers' bottom lines. We don't advocate trying to motivate consumers to make ill-considered purchases, of course, but marketers can help customers make appropriately indulgent choices that they'll appreciate over the long term. Suppose consumers are asked in advance of a shopping mall trip to consider two possibilities: buying an expensive item of clothing that would make them happy, or buying a cheaper alternative that would allow them to spend the saved money on more practical things. Half are then asked to predict which of the two possibilities would cause them the greatest regret the next day, while the other half are asked to consider the regret they might feel over each purchase several years later. After the shopping trip, the consumer's actual purchases are examined. Expectedly, those who had anticipated regret the next day would tend to buy more practical goods. Those who had considered regret in the more distant future would buy more indulgent products. In other words, thinking about short-term regret drives consumers to be virtuous, whereas thinking about long-term regret leads them to be extravagant. This implies that marketers of luxury products and leisure services could benefit from prompting consumers to predict their feelings in the future if they forego the indulgent choice. For instance, a travel company might ask customers to consider how they'll feel about having passed up a family vacation package once the nest is empty. Consumers, too, can benefit from such prompts. Nobody on his deathbed ever said, "I wish I had spent more time at the office." Marketers should tap consumers' desire for shoulds. More and more companies today are engaged in the business of serving our should selves. Think of gyms, natural food stores, and other providers of the healthful, nutritious, educational, and uplifting products and services we know we should consume. But there's much these companies don't know about how best to satisfy people's high-minded desires. One key to success may be to sell a virtuous offering as part of a bundle. In fact, many consumers would jump at the opportunity to make their future receipt of pleasurable products contingent upon their future consumption of healthful or educational products. People are more likely to favor pleasurable want options if the consequences are immediate, and good-for-you should options if the consequences will occur in the future. For example, a study of online DVD rentals revealed that when customers order a highbrow, should, film before a lowbrow, want, a decision made days before consumption, they return, and presumably watch, the films out of order far more often than when they rent the lowbrow film first. As these results indicate, even if people plan to behave virtuously tomorrow, want often trumps should when tomorrow arrives. Self-aware individuals sense this about themselves. Accordingly, these sophisticates have long shown a willingness to buy commitment devices, which help them commit in the present to choosing should rather than want in the future. Classic examples of commitment devices include piggy banks and diet treatment centers. The bundled offerings would build on these two ideas, that people favor want things today and should things tomorrow, and that sophisticates are willing to pay now to increase the incentives for their future selves to engage in should behaviors. To illustrate this concept, imagine a movie rental plan that included a free tub of popcorn with each rental of a documentary. This plan might appeal to sophisticates because it would give them an incentive to rent the highbrow films they value. And it might be more attractive than, say, a plan that offered discounts on future documentary rentals for an upfront fee, because psychological research has shown that willpower is a limited resource. Thus receiving popcorn, rather than avoiding its temptation, might make it easier for customers to exercise willpower and rent a highbrow movie. Similarly, imagine a health club that allowed members to receive some of their magazine subscriptions at its front desk. A customer could thereby ensure that in order to enjoy the latest issue of Vanity Fair, she would have to head for the gym. Reading Vanity Fair might also make it easier to pass the time during her workout, strengthening her incentive to choose the gym over a less healthful activity. Such a club might attract new, sophisticated members by spurring them to attend often and thus increase the value of their membership. Thank you for your valuable time in this video. Please subscribe to our channel for more advanced analytical models.